Let's roll.
We can't roll till I get it. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I am the presiding officer. Starting the meeting for today. We're a little slow this morning. I don't know, maybe it's I didn't have any coffee at home. Maybe that's it, but we will get started. These are the people that are here for today. Sylvia Baptiste, Nancy Ferry, Jackie Kenny, Len Thornton, myself, Gerald Stevens, Kate Orr, Mary Cavanero, Joe Budnick, Marty Johnston, on Zoom, Larry McKenzie, Tracy Farrell, Margot Sue Bittner, Mark Campos. Has anyone else joined us? Phil Russell, Mike Licata. Yeah. Yes. So for the inspiration, who is the inspiration? Len?
Thank you. Preservation of one's own culture does not require contempt or disrespect of other cultures. And if we are to preserve culture, we must continue to create it. Madam Officer.
Thank you very much. Now, if you will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may now be seated. Okay, and I'm going to turn our meeting over to our Toastmaster of the day, Jackie Kenny. And I'm sure she'll give us all kinds of behavioral ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Oops. Cultural competence. Culture is the name for what people are interested in. Their thoughts, their models, the books they read, and the speeches they hear. Cultural differences should not separate us from each other, but rather cultural diversity brings a collective that can benefit all of humanity. Mahatma Gandhi said, "No culture can live if it attempts to be exclusive." And I think that's something we should all keep in the forefront of our mind. So let's get things started. First, we'll hear from our WAG master, Sylvia Baptiste, who has already given us a prompt with our word of the day. Sylvia.
Morning. The word for today, behavioral. It's an adjective involving, relating to, or emphasizing behavior. And you can use it in a sentence. For example, closely related species have similar behavioral patterns. And also the other two duties this morning is pregnant pauses. I'll be counting that, and grammarian, challenging job. Yeah. And Beth Banks gets a star today. She already used behavioral. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. All right. Tracy Farrell, I saw online this morning, and she has a quote for us. Tracy, please. Your sound is not on, Tracy. Still no sound. Ooh. All right, we will come back to you, see if you can work that bug out. And I did not yet see Marshall's song on. He just came on.
Hello.
Well, just in the nick of time, Marshall. I have you down as our jester this morning. Let's hear from you.
Okay. And ask who asked me to be the jester. I'm a very serious man. You will know it from my behavioral story. So I will tell the story of James. James took his mother and mother-in-law go to Africa to a tribe for visit, for travel. And they didn't respect their God, so broke the law. The chef of the tribe want to beat them with a stick for 50 times per person. But considered they are foreigners, so allow them to ask a demand. The James' mother was so smart. She asked the one pillow put on her bottom. So she thinks that's okay. But 5 times of 50 accidentally beat her back. She was so painful. James' mother-in-law asked the 2 pillows put on her bottom and back. She thought that's okay, but 3 times of 50 beat it on her head. She also felt painful. James asked the chef, could you please beat me 100 times? The chef was very moved. Oh, so you are regret. You know you broke the law. What's your demand? James said, before you beat me 100 times, please put my mother-in-law on my back. Thank you.
Mother-in-law jokes. Thank you, Marshall. Our timer is Nancy Ferry, and I'm sure she'll be happy to tell us a little bit about her job. Yeah.
Yes, this morning I am your timer for tabletops, speeches, and for evaluation. Tabletops topics. What am I saying? Bleh, I need a little bit more coffee. Table topics are 1.5 to 3 minutes. So the green, the yellow, and the red will come up at 1:30, 1:45, and 2 minutes, and there is a 15-second buffer. Speeches are timed as specified. Most of them are 5 to 7 minutes. Let me know if they're different. Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes with a 30-second buffer. And I think that's it.
All right. And our next person to hear from is our quiz master, Mark Campos, online. Mark.
Thank you, Toastmaster Mom, fellow Toastmasters. Good morning. My job as Quizmaster is to test your listening skills. There will be a quiz at the end of the meeting, so listen carefully. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. Now, Tracy, have you been able to fix your sound problem? Do you want to try again?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm on my dad's computer and it's a bit older. So one of our largest behaviors that we have in a community is kindness. And Coretta Scott King says, the kindness of a community is most accurately measured by the kindness of its members. Now, what's kindness? Well, Mark Twain said, kindness is the language with C. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tracy. All right. Our general evaluator this morning is Mike Licata. Mike, do you want to give us a little overview of your duties?
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and any guests this morning. My job as the general evaluator is to evaluate the Toastmaster in the meeting, evaluate the tone, and evaluate the evaluators. And I want to thank you for remembering to introduce me before everything goes down. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mike. I don't know where I first heard this term cultural competence, but it struck me as being something very appropriate to our modern day life. We've become a very multicultural country. And I think we saw that especially at our Toastmasters conference recently. We had a lot of interesting people to meet and talk with, and I think it's good for all of us. I found a list that measures cultural competence from number 1, which is cultural destructiveness. This is when politics and policies and attitudes and practice damage our culture and our relationships with each other. Goes through cultural incapacity to cultural blindness, cultural pre-competence, basic cultural competence, and advanced cultural competence, which is what I'm hoping we could all aim for. It's an ongoing journey, lifting ourselves up out of whatever attitudes we're mired in and bringing ourselves up to where we should be, what we can strive for. So, David Licata doesn't appear on your agenda because he took himself off and Kate filled his position. He's doing an apology for whatever happened. But he is our table topics master this morning. So let's hear from him. David.
Until recently, I had done very well marking the computer-generated schedule to say that indeed I was going to do that job. And I thought I did it, but I didn't, because when I looked at it a second time, it was still open. And obviously when I punched in the second time, I took myself out. Okay, good news, Margot. We're going to do this in order.
Of course you are.
Yes. Now, there's different cultures. And Margot speaking, and I don't mean to speak for you, Margot, but I did the quick math and discovered that we are indeed both baby boomers. So what was our culture like for the boomers?
What an interesting question, Dave, because when you talk about behavioral things for baby boomers, and I'm the very tail end of the baby boomers, you think about the 1950s with going on a trip when you would get dressed up and men would wear shirts and ties. But as I was thinking about Jackie's topic today, it hit me from a very different angle, because when you're a cultural minority, you spend a lot of time teaching people about what is and isn't appropriate. And the first thing I thought about was many years ago when a local group did Fiddler on the Roof. And I took my children thinking it would be a wonderful experience to see what happened and how the play was, and Russian pogroms, the whole bit. And there was nobody Jewish involved in the theater production. And one of the scenes, you may know, takes place in a graveyard. and there were crosses on the gravestones. And as they were doing some of the numbers, my daughter started giggling because some of the things they were doing, for example, in the middle of the wedding, they started doing something with fabric and wrapping it around the bride and groom, and we'd never seen that before. So while, excuse me, Louis, so while I thought it would be a learning experience from one angle, it ended up teaching my children that we needed to be open and explain things, not critical, but let's teach people how things are done, and let's work together so that I can understand their traditions and they will then understand mine. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you so much. Margot was too kind to mention the phrase Lockport Senior High School. And I'm
No, it wasn't
smiling.
Lockport. Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, they were guilty of the same crime. And I bullied my son, Paul, not knowing that he wasn't theatrical. I just assumed he was because he was my son. And I put him on, at least got him on the stage crew, and I don't think he's ever forgiven me. It's not his cup of tea. So we covered the baby boomers. So I'm not familiar with all these other terms, but one term I am familiar with, and Kate, our president, is going to tell us all about the culture of the MTV generation.
Thank you, David. What kind of behavior did MTV bring about? Oh my goodness. I'll say I grew up in the country out in Burt, New York, and we did not have cable television. So for the good and the bad, I never much watched MTV. I am solidly in the Gen X camp, however, kind of sandwiched in between the boomers, the millennials, and beyond. The Z, what is it now? Z, Alpha. There's so many. I can't keep up. We're the forgotten ones, some say, because we're a smaller population. We're kind of a bridge. I like to focus on the positive. Less of the, you were the ignored generation, you raised yourselves, you were the latchkey kids, that kind of thing. I didn't really feel that way. Again, maybe being in the country and mom was home. And so it was until she was working when we were grown more. I'm a music fan. I'm not an MTV music fan usually, although wasn't okay. This is a dive into the Gen X here. Behaviorally, don't ever be like Beavis and Butthead. You may be familiar with the cartoon that came out of MTV, I'm pretty sure. Last week on Saturday Night Live, there was a hilarious Beavis and Butthead remake. You might want to go check it out on YouTube. I'll encourage you, but don't get sucked down the vortex of MTV. Thank you very much, Dave.
Everybody marvels at my capacity to knock him dead while playing Trivial Pursuit. But I went to a card party at the church because I wanted to see what the old lady culture was like. So I went, and I don't play cards, so I had my Trivial Pursuit game with me, but I had the one that's under 80 or for the 80s. I spread it out on the card table and went up to get my tiny little sandwiches and a cookie. And I came back and there was a gentleman unknown to me sat down. And because of the fact that that was the 80s, I was handicapped because during the 80s, I'm raising Beavis and Butthead. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean that. And you lose touch of the cultural touchstones because you're busy with the diapers and the feeding and the naps and trying to be a parent. So we played to a draw. Oh, terrible. Mary, what do you have to say about today's culture and what are people going through? Mary Carbonero.
One out of all of them.
And what? You can change it to anything you like. And whatever you want, Mary, the mic's yours.
Today, what people are going through is like behavioral drama and stuff about elections and stuff. I wish I would have had Kate's table topic question because no, I grew up watching MTV and it was bad and politified and swearing and all that drama stuff that most music videos have. Because my brother used to watch them when he was growing up as a kid. And I'm talking about early 90s. He liked it, but he got me into watching Christina Aguilera, and it was actually a funny music video. I mean, she was good, and he really liked her and everything else. And he got into listening to music and everything back then. No, my brother likes rap, and I unfortunately don't like rap at all. I don't like country either. I like pop and all that older stuff like the 80s and 90s. Any favorites? I like Backstreet Boys.
Getting back to this boomer stuff, I want you to stop referring to her as mom because when I encountered her, she was a junior, I was a freshman. She was just the sauciest upper class lady. That's what she was, I'll tell you. All righty then. I need a timer's report.
And I can give you that. Margot, 152, Kate at 123.73. And Kate, I apologize, put the green thing up before it was 1.5 minutes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You qualified. And Mary at 135. All three of our contestants qualified as far as timer.
And now here's Wagging Sylvia with the word of the day.
All three of our contestants used behavioral, and Tracy also used it this morning. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call back the Toastmaster of the day, my favorite junior.
Those were the days. All right. Being sensitive to the feelings of others is part of our human obligation to care for one another. Something I think we all need to make sure we're doing. A good way to make yourself culturally competent is to sit back, keep your mouth shut, and listen to other people. Listen to what they have to say, what their attitudes are, what they're trying to convey to you by the things they say, so that you can be sensitive and respond to them appropriately. I don't think it's that hard to do. You don't have to be super extra nice. You just have to be kind. As Kate said this morning, kindness is important. Do you want to be politically correct, or do you want to live through basic kindness? Just mouth it or truly feel it. And so we are on to our first speech this morning. We have a slightly longer speech, an 8 to 10. So our first speaker is Larry McKenzie, who is going to be evaluated by Marty Johnston, and Marty's going to tell us a little bit about his job this morning.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day, and thank you for verifying the time, because I had originally 8 to 10, and then on the form it said 5 to 7. So Nancy knows that it's 5 to 7. Thank you so much. This morning, I have a distinct pleasure to be evaluating fellow Toastmaster Larry McKenzie, and it's from a fairly new path. It's called the Distinguished Toastmaster. And this is Larry's first speech, and the purpose for Larry is to demonstrate his skills as a public speaker. Imagine that. Additionally, the member will introduce his plan and his vision. The member should strive, for my notes, should strive for exemplary ratings on every evaluation criteria. And I have that criteria listed. I'm looking forward to Larry's speech project. And the title is, What Can I Do to Help? Larry McKenzie, take it away.
Before we begin the time this morning, Marty, the evaluation form, this is actually speech 2, not speech 1, and it is the 8 to 10 minutes, and it's the follow-up for speech 1.
Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay.
The
This
one,
morning-
okay, got
Oh.
it. Thank you.
This morning, I have the distinct pleasure of recapping my project that I have been working on. It's an exciting project that I had help from a lot of Toastmasters, a lot of people from the Celtic Festival, a lot of friends from all over, actually one from Boston. I had another friend from Cleveland that helped with this. Now, I do believe that the quote that Jackie gave us, no culture can live if it chooses to be exclusive, by Mahatma Gandhi, is something that you could equate to volunteering. Because if you have that yes mentality where you offer yourself to assist somebody or to help without looking for anything in return, then other than the fact that the pleasure of being able to perhaps help something or a cause, then I believe that we're all in the same wavelength with that. So what I want to talk about this morning is the opportunity that we had as a group for the Hydrocephalus Association to work a concession stand at the Luke Combs concert. Now, when we first took on this endeavor, it was something that I was unaware of how it would run, what we do, what do we have to do. So what I actually did was I asked a lot of questions, some people that I knew that ran concessions at the Bills games and other events of what they did. Well, their help was, I guess you would say, minute to the fact that once we actually gathered our volunteers, which we had probably about 40 plus volunteers that offered to assist over the 2 days. Those volunteers had to be trained. So leading the group, I figured, well, how do I go out and do this all on my own? So I recruited, Kate helped me. I had another helper that is a professor from Hilbert College. She brought in a group of volunteers. So with the 3 of us, and then Ryan Flory jumped in to help also as one of our coordinators and leaders with part of the event. What we did is we put together our training for our volunteers, because each one had to go through a 1-hour training process in order to be able to work at the concession stand. So how do we go about doing that? We have to follow up with them to make sure that they're doing that. So this one event that looked like it was just going to be a 2-day work a concession turned out to be probably a 50, 60-hour event in planning, putting together, and also implementing the event. Now, after many meetings with the people from Highmark and the Delaware North and what they had perceived what was going to happen at the concessions and what we would expect when we were there, none of that really happened in some respect, because they were probably as unprepared for what was going to take place on Friday and Saturday, May 19th and May 20th, or excuse me, April 19th and April 20th. We're not even in May yet to that point, but the information that they gave us were things that they received from other places that had held a concert. Those were warm weather climates. We're in Buffalo. It's 40 degrees outside and a little bit different than, say, going to Texas to the same concert. The only information that they had was, now this is a Luke Combs country concert. The only information that they had to fall back on was from a Dr. Dre concert that they had held a few years back. A little bit different, perhaps, say, clientele that was coming to this event. These were beer drinkers and eaters coming to a country concert. Well, we arrived there on Friday and we got to our stand, and inside the stand, there's a book. The book is supposed to tell you everything you need to know about running a concession stand. That's our training. Here we go. Jump in, both feet. 8 cashiers. How do we work the POS system? We'll figure it out. We did. Now we're in the back. Got the grills going, the fryers ready, and we were told this is not going to be like a Bills game. You're not going to be that busy. You're going to have the hills and the valleys. And they showed us these graphs. This is how the other concerts worked. Well, they opened the gates 5 o'clock. 8 cashiers, 20 people deep, starting at 5 o'clock, and it lasted till 9:45, never stopped. People everywhere ordering. Well, we had 1 deep fryer for chicken fingers. We could cook 6 orders of chicken fingers every 12 minutes. Well, 8 cashiers. I'll take 2. I'll take 2. I'll take 1. I'll take 3. I'll want 1. Burgers. Same thing. We had the grill, but we could only flip so many. 1 fryer for French fries. 6 orders of French fries. So every 8 to 12 minutes, we had French fries, this, that. So we had lines, but we had some disgruntled customers. We did the best we could until one of the gentlemen in his suit and tie walked in with his clipboard and his gentleman following him. He was the general manager. He said, you've got lines out there. You're falling way behind. No kidding. Well, according to my book that you gave me and the information, it said that we should be able to do this, start cooking at 4. Well, we did what we were told, but obviously they didn't expect what happened. So the planning process, I guess, with anything can only go as far as the information that you receive. So the information we received was ineffective for what was going to happen. So how did we deal with that? I had some wonderful volunteers that, even though the pressure and everything that was happening in front of them and the people, some of them disgruntled, and some of them may have had a few libations or two that perhaps put them in a little bit of a different state of mind when they were waiting for 20 minutes, maybe for an order of chicken fingers, handled it quite well. And I'm very proud to say that our volunteers did it with a smile. And why was that? And I think it's because of the fact that they also knew that we could only do so much. And once we told people that we were volunteers and we were not actually a person that was on the payroll for them, people became a little bit more considerate of the fact that, well, you are doing the best you can with what you have to work with. When this gentleman in the suit was there talking to me, and he seemed a little indignant with a couple of our people, and he came back and talked to me. And he said, well, blah, 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 and he starts chirping. And I said, hold on a second. We have a little bit of a problem. I said, we're doing what we were told, and we started when we were supposed to, but I said, this is not like what they expected. We have 20 people in line, 8 different lines. We're doing the best we can. And his answer to me was, well, I guess you know better now. You should have started cooking earlier. Okay. Bye-bye. So the following night, the chef who was in charge of the commissary, he came down and he said, we're going to help you out tonight, Larry. We're going to cook all of your chicken fingers upstairs in the commissary. You just fire the fries up and keep them going with both fryers. Great idea. We still fell behind. We sold out of everything that we had. Sold every bottle or can of beer that we had in the thing, every bottle of soda, and people were still coming. What did we learn from this? The behavioral patterns of people, they're going to do what they want to do. They're up there, they're buying, they're having fun at a concert. And we were also having fun in some respect to the fact that it was out of our control. So as the coordinator, I had all of these wonderful volunteers that I was thankful for helping out our cause. And the end result of all of that was the fact that we had 2 hard days of work at Highmark Stadium, to the point where it was nonstop from opening of gate until they shut us down, which is something that they did not expect. But all of my volunteers that helped out did an immaculate job that I cannot even begin to thank them enough for not only myself for helping, but also for the Hydrocephalus Association, because that 2-day result, and I'll share it with all of you, resulted in our association raising $14,201 from the efforts that our volunteers put forth on a 2-day event at Highmark Stadium. So with that, we learned a lot. We learned that you can't, whatever's expected, you got to look for that left turn, right turn. And with that, I want to thank everyone for your time and my adventure.
Thank you, Larry. Our next speaker this morning is going to be Gerald Stevens, and he'll be evaluated by Joe Budnack. Joe is going to come up now and give us a little information on the speech requirements. Joe.
Good morning. Gerald is speaking with the Connect with Your Audience, and the purpose of this project is for the member to practice the skills needed to connect with an unfamiliar audience, and his speech title is Dream a Little Dream. Best of luck to you, Gerald.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, Madam Toastmaster. My heart is on fire with crazy dreams. It ignites like gasoline. Luke Combs. That is how I feel about my dreams. I think we should all need to dream a little dream. Doesn't matter what age you are, you need to have some sort of vision, something you want to do. I want to do this. I want to do that. Doesn't have to be a giant thing. It could be a little thing, something very easily accomplished. It reminds me a little bit of the journey with a car to some degree. So you have to get your idea. I want to go somewhere, get a journey. I need a GPS to get directions. So I have a dream. What do I need to make that dream happen? So I need gas for the car. I need directions. You could use a GPS like we did when we went to the Southern Tier Brewery. When Len came back, Len was in my car on the way back, and sometimes with the GPS, it gets you right there, but with Len, it did not get us right there. We were like here and there and back in the country, and we're like, what is going on? So sometimes your journey is direct. Sometimes there's a few stops along the way, and that's okay, as long as you get there. You have your vision. I'm going to make a vision board is what I'm going to do for me. I've never done this before. I've had a few things that I posted. Some people put it on their refrigerator or whatnot. So what is going to go in my vision board? So for me, one thing that I'd like to do is to finish to all 50 states. I've been to 49. I want to go that last one. It'll be North Dakota. And in North Dakota, there's a national park, Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and Glacier National Park is also near there. So that's going to be next summer. So I have a vision. I know how to get there. I know I need a bus pass in Glacier. I know I need this or that. So we did some research. So it's one thing to have a vision. It's another thing to make it happen. So these are important elements. I also envision, thanks to Kate, I never really envisioned, but Kate said, "Oh, you should go all the national parks." I never really thought about that. I just wanted to go. Yes, you did that, Kate. So I was like, "Oh yeah, that would be great to do that." Last night I had a meeting at the chiropractor with a bunch of chiropractors, and I know a couple that has gone to all but 3 or 4. So it's quite a few. They're doing 3 this summer, and there's 2 left in Alaska. They have to fly into, they told me. I'm like, oh, that could be hard. Save those for last. Exactly. I am going to a couple this year. One called the Channel Islands out near in California. And there's an island on the Annapurna. I'm totally mispronouncing. They went there, and that one island you have to take a boat to, and their son called it Anacrappa. So apparently there's a lot of birds there, and there's a lot of bird crap. So I'm so motivated to go there now. So we'll see how that goes. They did say it was very nice, but there's a little side note there. So that's the one vision. It's important for me as well to have a legacy. So I have a legacy with students doing chiropractic. Legacy in leadership is what I'm trying to do next. With the Chiropractic Association, make something happen that'll last a long time. So in the spring, I will be running for vice president of the state association. I'll hopefully work my way up to the top. In the fall, I'll be running for the second vice president of the Chiro Congress, and 6 years later, hopefully be the national president. Hopefully I can do something in those roles to last a long time and benefit what I love as my profession. Also, my goal is to spend as much time with family and friends as possible in between those things. Because it's nice to have these big dreams, but little things are okay too. And maybe I want to go to a baseball game. Maybe I want to go to the Bandits game. Something like that. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe I just want to go have dinner with friends and just hang out by the bonfire. It could be small goals. And that's what I'd like to do in my life. So I challenge you, fellow Toastmasters, to have a vision, have a goal, and hope. Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good things ever truly die. Shawshank Redemption. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. All right, our final evaluator this morning will be Beth Banks, who was surprised with that assignment when she got here today. She's going to be evaluating Phil Russell.
And luckily, Phil Russell put his ideas on the website so I can go to them on my phone. For Phil, this is a follow-up to his last speech where he talked about TV and radio for AM Lockport Toastmasters. And let's see if I can go down here. He is in the Pathways Dynamic Leadership, writing a speech with purpose. His project title is What is Next? Continuation. Everyone, Phil Russell, continuation. For the timer, Nancy, it is a 5 to 7 minute speech. Thank you.
What is next? What are we gonna do? How about radio and TV? How about this? How about this? Let's push our creative behaviors. Think about that. Help me. I can't do it alone. I need help, and I want to see some people step up. And a Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Any guests? No, that's okay. That's what we need is guests. This is how we're going to go and get them. What's the purpose of radio? Advertisement and information. Good idea. I talked with Dr. Stevens, and he saw the opportunity, but he also saw the challenge. It's a major challenge. First off, there's a cost of $300, but we could get advertisers. Say, for instance, I could advertise my business for $100. Les Robinson, $100. Dr. Stevens, $100. There's $300. Toastmasters itself, $100. That's what we could do. Maybe do a radio show once a quarter. That's all. And we're advertising. How about TV? TV. LCTV right here in Lockport. We could actually have a meeting there. Has anybody ever been over? I know Jackie has. She runs a show over there. Anybody been over there to see the size of that major studio? It's big. We can house all of our members right in there. The studio is big enough. How about Zoom? We have a couple of creative people in Lenny and Larry, the Lenny and Larry show. Also, Mark is getting it on it. We got to change his name to some kind of L. Mark? Lark? Nah, I can't do it. All right, now let's get back on track here. The studio probably could be set up with a little creative energy to put in Zoom as well. That's what TV is all about. Guess what? It's free. Judy Naylor is looking for shows. We have a show. Think about this. Dave wants to meet in the summer in person. What if we could meet at LCTV in person and on Zoom during the summer? Air conditioned, they need a show. We have people. It's within a mile of where we're meeting right now. It's a perfect match. But we need help. Everyone is busy. If you're a Toastmaster, you are one of the busiest people going because you have so many things going on. I just got over, it was crazy what the week I had, but I did get my garden again. My wife, Chris, unfortunately had what they call an eye bleed and blew a vessel in there. And so she had to go to the doctor, and I had to take her to the doctor on Tuesday, but they canceled it. So I have to take her on Saturday, same time as our golf tournament. Ooh. But the doctor takes precedence. We're all busy. We're all busy. Listen to Larry. Listen to Dr. Stevens. The things that they did and are going to do. We can do this. We're Toastmasters. We can organize ourselves so that we can do whatever we want to do. It's fun. And it will promote us. Just think about it. An hour and a half TV program. It may not be live. It could be. But it could be taped. And then we do the hour and a half meeting. They put it on TV. We're already taping it, putting it through the web world that Lenny sends it to. But we could do it right on LCTV, and we could have a show every week. And they could break it up into 3 separate parts, 3 half-hour shows, to be continued, all that stuff. It's creative, but I need help. I'll do it. Part of it. I can't do it all. But I need help. And I need some creative minds to put this thing to work. And I think we can do it. Let's work on developing our creative juices. Let's get them running. Radio and TV. Think about it. Contact me if you're interested. I will start it once we have enough people that we think we can get going on. I'll introduce you to Judy Naylor, Jackie Wilkes. She'll do the backroom technology, teach Larry, teach Lenny, all that stuff. It's amazing what can be done on TV. So I need help. Let's try it. Let's do it. Contact me. Hey, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Phil. And now we need a timers report. How did our speakers do this morning, Nancy?
Our speakers did really well. Larry McKenzie had an 8 to 10 minute speech and he did 10 minutes and 15 seconds. That qualifies with the buffer. Gerald Stevens was a 5 to 7 minute speech. His was 5:16, qualified. And Phil Russell, 5 to 7, and his time was 6:13. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Nancy. All right. Cultural competence is a crucial skill for understanding and effectively interacting with people from diverse backgrounds. Let's explore the 6 stages of the cultural competence continuum. As I said before, while you're casting your ballots, there's cultural destructiveness, and I think we unfortunately see examples of that all the time, the way people behave in political demonstrations, the way they talk to each other, the things they say about each other. The era of polite discourse seems to have fallen by the wayside. Cultural incapacity. In this phase, there's a lack of awareness and understanding of cultural differences. Some of that is probably deliberate. People don't want to expand their horizons and find out more about those around us and honor that and give respect to other people. Cultural blindness. I've heard this a lot through my life. Individuals claim to be colorblind. Well, if you have to say it, I don't know that you are. But it also, that kind of approach can lead to failing to acknowledge cultural differences. Cultural pre-competence. Well, I guess you could say people are trying. They're trying to recognize the importance of cultural competence and seeking to expand their understanding. That's a good thing. It has a long way to go. Basic cultural competence. At this level, people demonstrate a good understanding of cultural differences, and they apply this knowledge to their daily life. You can see it in their attitudes and their approach to other people. They're trying to respect the differences that they see and acknowledge that everybody's different, but that's okay. It's not a deficit if you believe in something different than what I believe in. Advanced cultural competence. This highest stage involves what they're calling here deep cultural proficiency. I guess it means that individuals understand cultural differences and they also actively promote it. They engage in meaningful cross-cultural interactions. They advocate for inclusion and create an environment where everyone feels valued and respected. There's a song, What a Wonderful World That Would Be. I think that would be the theme song for this. So I'd like everyone to remember that cultural competence is an ongoing journey and continue learning and reflecting so that everyone can feel valued and respected, including the kind of language you use when you evaluate someone. So let's hear from our first evaluator, Marty Johnston, who's going to be evaluating Larry McKenzie's speech this morning. Marty.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster Jackie, fellow Toastmasters, and any guests, and especially Larry. What a wonderful speech. As some of you are aware, Larry is currently a DTM and working on this project. And in communicating with Larry, I learned that he's working on his Pathways DTM. So kudos to you, Larry. I enjoyed your speech project, Larry. Excuse me. You took us back to the Luke Combs concert where you were raising funds for the hydrocephalus fund that you're leading for the association. And I loved the background, the concession background. You took us right there. You took us right there at center stage, if you will. And you told us what you learned from the experience of being the coordinator for this project, this fundraiser. And as I mentioned, the purpose was for Larry to take us back to this speech project, this project that he was working on, and tell us about the experience. And he did that. He took us right there, right on the front lines with the disgruntled customer that was having a behavioral meltdown. Where is my food? And the guy's probably obese and he's probably huge and he probably doesn't really need anything that you have there. But that's besides the point. But I can picture the man. I can picture the person, the disgruntled person. We all run into them. And you told us how your group dealt with them. And I can relate to that because working in the retail industry, I deal with that almost on a regular basis. And I liked how, which ties in with your speech title, What Can I Do to Help? And I can picture some of the people helping at the concession stand looking at this man. What can I do to help? And you're looking at him right in the eye. And what is he going to say at that face? That's, what can I do to help you, sir? We're trying the best we can. And sometimes they say, you know, you get more help or more satisfaction or more people to feel what you're going through by being sweet and honest and kind. And I think that really showed and that really came through. Okay, a couple things to work on. Three things actually. Vocal variety, the situation with this disgruntled customer. I would have liked you to have told us how that man was talking in that meltdown that he was having, that behavioral meltdown, and just exaggerate that a little bit more. Your hand gestures were up above the screen, but I would have liked to see them up a little higher. That's one of the disadvantages. And I understand what the scenario and with the concession stand, but a little higher, that would have been great for all of us to encapsulate where you were, what you were going through with those gestures. And the last thing, a minor thing, just double check that your speech project is the one on the website, because I was a little confused, but you corrected me. What a wonderful speech, Larry. I wish you all the best on your future and your following through on this path for your Pathways DTM. Madam Toastmaster Jackie, thank you.
And now we'll hear from Joe Budnack, who's going to be evaluating Gerald's speech this morning. Joe.
Thank you for a wonderful speech this morning, Gerald. Very inspirational. One thing I really liked about your presentation was you came out behind the lectern. You had stage presence, wonderful gestures. And when you don't use this thing as a ball and chain, which I'm trying to work on when I'm doing my speeches, that really frees you up. Your stories were very inspirational and very entertaining and very funny at times. I liked how, once again, of course, inspirational your speech was, how you encouraged everyone to go after their dreams, follow their dreams, and go after what it is that you want to do. And like I said, I really enjoyed your stories. I'm glad that you had an opportunity to travel. I've also traveled too at times. I had the joy of doing it through Europe. Had a different cultural experience going to different countries at times. It was almost a culture shock at times because Americans don't exactly do the things that foreigners do over in Europe, especially France. They don't like Americans. Well, excuse us for breathing. But I enjoyed hearing a lot of your stories about some of the things that you got to do and that you got to enjoy. And like I said, it was very inspirational, and you encouraged all of us to follow our dreams and do the things that we enjoy doing. Now, how am I supposed to find something to improve with a seasoned Toastmaster like yourself? How the heck do I do that? Well, if I have to say one thing, maybe I understand you were pressed for time. It's 5 to 7 minutes, but like perhaps maybe you could have included, where was your favorite state that you like to go? What was the thing that you enjoyed doing the most that you really did? And like I said, I understand you were pressed for time, 5 to 7 minutes, but like perhaps you could have just simply said, what was your favorite trip? So, but we enjoyed hearing your stories. We enjoyed being inspired by everything that you got to do. And I look forward to hearing your stories again. So please keep it up and help us enjoy hearing about your trips some more. Best of luck to you. I hope you continue to travel and get to South Dakota and let us know what it is that you did and what you enjoyed. Thank you, Gerald.
And last but not least, we'll hear Beth Banks evaluating Phil Russell this morning. Beth.
To avoid the going up and down, I'll just come out in front and we'll do it that way. So Phil Russell, you always have great gestures, your facial expressions. Sometimes I think you're trying to wake us up because you're really pressing in, eyeballs wide open. You show expressions very well. I like your variety of volume this time. You quieted down. I know when I was teaching, I learned if you really want them to pay attention, be very quiet because then they have to listen. So I really liked that, Phil. Very good. I will give you a couple of challenges. I would like to see you back up just a little. And I know that is not always what we say when we're giving suggestions, but I think we would have been able to see your hand gestures better if you had backed up just a little. There were times when we saw part of a hand, but not the full hand. So that would help. Also, I'm going to give you a challenge, and it kind of piggybacks on what Marty said. How about using LCTV as your background? If you're talking about going to LCTV, use that as your background. I like the concept of going to LCTV. Hopefully we can do it. I think that might be a little bit of a technological challenge. I don't know if Len and Larry would be up to that, I would maybe recommend that if we can't do it every week, perhaps we could schedule every other week. There are groups, Toastmasters groups, that only meet every other week. Is that something that we want to do, is meet 1 week on Zoom, 1 week at LCTV? It is a possibility. Let's take suggestions from our Zoom masters and technological geniuses for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth. All right, now we need our last of timers report of the day. Nancy.
Our last and final timers report for today. Marty Johnston, 3:36. Sorry. Joe Budnick, 2:20. Beth Banks, 2:17. So Joe and Beth both qualified. Madam Toastmaster.
All right, so everyone will be casting their ballot now. Go ahead and vote. And Mike Licata, would you like to take over the meeting at this point and continue on? Michael.
No problem, Madam Toastmaster. Good morning again, fellow Toastmasters and our guests. Jackie, I want to give you a lot of credit. I know in this day and age of technology and Zoom and the internet and the website, it is hard to wrangle everyone and make sure that they understand their jobs, and even how something as simple as how the internet or how the web page works, and how you can click the wrong button on almost every occasion you check out the website. So you did a great job with the follow-up with the emails. Excuse me. This day and age, you don't really need phone calls. Excuse me. But you did a great job. It was a great theme. You handled it delicately too, because it didn't delve into arguments between people and all that. Didn't delve into arguments. You also did a good job of not too much filler. You kept the meeting rolling. You adjusted when you had trouble finding a third speaker, and you commandeered Beth into the third evaluator job this morning. So good job on that. Our 3 evaluators all had the sandwich approach, whereas you give positive feedback. The meat of it is what they could do to improve the speech, and the finish is a lot of the good feedback. Now, one suggestion I'd give to Marty is, when you're giving evaluation and you finish the speech with all the plaudits at the end, you usually try to skip the plaudits at the end, especially if even just the yellow light's on, as it said that you went over time. So I encourage all Toastmasters, when it comes to evaluations in the future, just be aware of the time. And if you need to cut out the plaudits at the end of the speech and the other, we're looking forward to your future speech, we can always, and I'm guilty of it as well, we can always skip that part. It's usually just a tool that evaluators use to make sure we hit the timing marks. But overall, it was a good meeting. All 3 of our speakers had a tough challenge, but they rose to it in being able to find ways for our speakers to improve. And with that, I will turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Jackie, because she has the list for the Quizmaster and the Wagmaster and all the other reports. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, I will happily hear from Sylvia with her treble report on her multiple duties here. Sylvia, Wagmaster.
Thank you. Well, the word of the day kind of petered out, but 2 speakers did use it, which was impressive. Larry used it and Phil used behavior or behavioral. So please use that today, during the day. Think about it. I know Joe would probably say with children, your behavior is terrible. So was the word of the day. We've had, let's see, 1, 2, 4, 7, 9, 11, 12 so's today. I'm not going to name people. Also, I noticed restarts. We had a couple people started their sentence over again or kind of relitigated what they were saying. And I noticed Marty did that when he was thinking of what to say next. So he did a couple restarts. Joe used the word like a lot. You like that word. Maybe you could have used it other than like use. For example, what was your favorite state instead of like, what is your favorite state? And also, I'm not sure, Mike, if I heard correctly, because sometimes the sound is a little foggy. You did done, have the sandwich approach. I'm not sure if that's what you wanted to say. You could have said done the sandwich approach or had done the sandwich approach, which way sounds the best. And that is my report this morning.
And our final report will be from Mark Campos as our quizmaster.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Just a few questions this morning. What do Dave and Margot have in common? They're both what? I can't hear the answers.
There was an answer from the room, baby boomers.
Okay, thank you.
Me too.
Where did Kate grow up?
Bert.
In Bert. What animated characters did Kate mention?
Beavis and Butthead.
Beavis and Butthead.
Yes, she did. What boy band does Mary like?
Oh, she likes the
What?
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys, correct.
Okay.
About how many volunteers did Larry have for the Luke Combs concert?
40.
40 plus.
40 from
So
the room, yeah.
I'm not looking for the precise number. A ballpark will be acceptable, but how much did he raise that weekend?
North of 14,000.
Correct, $14,201 to be precise. Shockingly, Gerald Stevens has not been to one state in the Union. What state is it?
North Dakota.
North Dakota,
North
correct.
Dakota.
And lastly, Dr. Stevens began and ended his speech with quotes, one from an artist and one from a movie. Who and what were they?
Shawshank Redemption was the ending quote.
Correct.
Nobody can remember the beginning quote, evidently.
Okay, well, what
Luke,
concert did?
Luke Combs. Luke
Okay,
Combs.
sort of obvious when you think about it. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Well, I know you're all going to go out and practice cultural competence in the coming days. I expect that from you, and maybe a report back about it. Madam Presiding Officer, would you like to come up? And we'll do the announcement of the winners. All right. Our table topics winner is
Margot Sue Bittner.
our best evaluator is standing next to me, Beth Banks.
Thank you.
And our best speaker this morning is Larry McKenzie. So here,
Hey.
how about if you do this?
Okay, see if I can do this. Whoa, I can't. All right, the last three numbers are 586. There we
All
go.
right.
All right.
Good. Put that back in and
Yes.
thank you.
And
All right.
you want to close the meeting?
All right. I know, I have to do everything. Okay, I will officially close the meeting for today.